Hey guys, I'm here with another video. So I asked you on my little community tab if there was anything you'd be interested in seeing outside of show list previews and show recaps, and a couple of you responded. Thank you so much. And somebody said they liked my Should You Go to Nationals video, and they would like if I did a video on how, or a series maybe, on how to pursue a Bikini Pro card, or Pro card in general, I guess, because all this is pretty applicable, at least to women's divisions, because I talk about makeup, hair, overall presentation stuff. And someone else said video on breakout stars, people who I think will be breakout stars, who are lesser known. And I think that's great too. I have been thinking about adding in some, not recaps, but just kind of shouting out people who are newly becoming pro. But I've been a little conflicted about it because I'm not going to critique them. I mean, I could say this is what you need to do for the Pro League, but pretty much everyone knows what it is they need to do for the Pro League. And also I think it would be good to just let them enjoy the fact that they went pro, so I'm not going to, give critiques and stuff, but I can shout them out, and I totally will. We have a couple people, 3 people from Milan actually who just went pro, and then somebody else in Canada who just went pro. So I'll talk about those, maybe this weekend when I wrap up some shows. And then they also said casual workout vlogs. Someone on my Instagram said what I eat in a day stuff. I probably won't do what I eat in a day because I think it's kind of boring. I mean, I can. Do you guys care about that? I just, I haven't cleaned my kitchen like that. I feel like you have to have a pretty pristine kitchen to do a what I eat in a day video. So actually, that's probably my biggest hang up. I'm not going to clean my kitchen deeply. Not anytime soon, let's be honest. So let's get into the video. So thank you, commenter, who suggested I do kind of an addition to the how to become a pro type of thing, Daphne. Because I have made a list. I thought about doing it as a series, but then I realized some of them would be way shorter, so I may as well just get into everything that I can think of now. I'm sure I'm going to leave stuff out, but yeah, so if anything I say in this video spurs more questions, then I can definitely make follow-up videos on it. Just let me know, because this is fun for me. So let's go over it. Let's talk about first your mindset. If you were trying to go pro, I'm gonna just do this entire video based on the assumption that you are completely adherent to your plan, you're doing everything, you're practicing your posing, you are not deviating or making excuses or anything to not do the things that are on your plans. And I don't mean to be, I don't want to sound harsh when I say that. So hopefully none of this, I'm not calling anyone out. I'm not a coach. I don't even have anyone to call out. If anything, I'm calling myself out for things that I've done in the past. But yeah, so let's first talk about mindset. So I would say live like a pro. Most people who turn pro are already doing all the things that they need to do to be a pro. They are following their plans, they're practicing their posing, they are not missing workouts, they're putting all the intensity into cardio that they would put into their workouts themselves. They aren't, sandbagging it in any area. So yeah, and I'm going to put little numbers by these as timestamps, because I think I'm going to try to do timestamps in the video. So yeah, live like a pro already. Just pretend you are a pro already, because that's what's going to make you most successful once you do become a pro, not having to have that entire learning curve. And then the other thing is you could be the best person on stage. You could have the best physique on stage, including for the bikini criteria, but you could still not win. So understand that. And a way someone would beat you, even if you do have the best physique on stage, is maybe because they outposed you, which we'll get into. Maybe their hair and makeup was more polished than yours, which we'll get into. Maybe their suit selection was better. So we're going to get into all of that stuff. But just understand that you could be the best one that day and still not win. And also understand that just because even if you win, it could be the last time you ever win. So don't get too caught up in being a pro as that being the end goal, because then you won't be able to experience how wonderful it is when you do become a pro. Because for a lot of people, that is the last time they win. And also understand when you're going into a national show that sorry, I'm getting distracted. I need to just go off my outline. Most people are signing up to lose. Most people who do a national show are not going to come out winning. So you have to have the mindset that, like, hey, I did everything I could, and now let the chips fall where they may. Be excited for the other people at the show. Be happy for the people who do win, because they worked just as hard as you. And just know that you could be the hardest worker in the room, but somebody with better genetics showed up that day, or with more experience working out showed up that day, and they beat you. They beat your ass. So just go in with excitement and gratitude for getting to be there, because not everyone gets to do these national shows. And that's another thing. There are like a million people that are way better at this sport than me, have way more of what it takes to be a pro than I do. But I was just lucky enough that I get to do this sport in the first place. A lot of people don't have the time or the resources to be able to do a national show. And it would be a dream to even think they could get to the gym 5 days a week or have a gym membership. So just go in with humility to your shows. And then another part of the mindset I would mention is that so I had a friend, and I wanted to go off my plan during a prep I had, probably like 2020 or something. And he told me that his friend said, whenever he wants to go off his plan, he said, that bite is what second place tastes like. Because only first place gets their pro card. So that's also part of the mindset. It's kind of disordered in any other aspect of your life, but in bodybuilding, that is the reality. Like, so just anytime you want to go off your plan, just remind yourself, that's what second place is doing. Like, there's always someone right behind you, someone who is doing the things that you are not doing. So anytime you want to slack, just know that slacking could be the difference between you going pro or not going pro. So just have this harsh mindset with yourself. And I even, I made a little note for myself. Whenever prep got hard, I would look at it. And one of the things on the note, I'm 26. One of the things on my note was people way younger than me do this, and they're way better at it than me. And people who have 5 kids do this, 5 kids, and they're a doctor or a nurse or something, they work 12-hour shifts. They're doing it, and they're doing it better than me. So I really have no excuse not to stick to my plan. So yeah, just cut out any excuses. That's the other thing. So now we're going to talk about national show strategy. So let me give you a little background. I've given you a background in my nationals video, I think, but I'll go a little more into depth. So national show strategy. So I'm working on it, but I knew that not new. There's no way to know. There's never a way to know in bodybuilding if you have enough of whatever it is to go pro or to do well at a pro show, do well at a regional show, whatever it is. But I had a feeling that based on the research I had done, looking at who wins at the different shows, looking at the trends I see at different shows every single year, and looking at their physiques, I had a feeling that I had just enough muscle to go pro, not enough muscle to immediately start competing as a pro and do well. So specifically my glutes. My glutes are completely lagging. When I stepped off stage at the Arnold Amateur, they said, take a year to build glutes, and they, said other nice things, but they were like, you can compete for fun if you want. That's what Bill Sibilia said. He said, if you want to compete for fun, go for it, but you need at least a year to build glutes. And then Becky Clausen agreed. They were the two. I don't know who the head judge was, but it was the two of them who were talking to me on the panel. And someone else was talking to me too, and I'll say what he said. So from the second you step on stage, which is something I'll get into, but I'll address it now. From the second you are able to see the judges when you're on those stairs to walk onto the stage, the judges can see you. And you need to grab their attention from the moment they see you to the moment you exit the stage. I talked about Jessica Wilson at the Olympian, how cunty it was that from the second she was exiting that stage, like to the very last second you could see her, the way she just opened those curtains and disappeared, it was peak professionalism, in my opinion. She did not lose her stage persona for even a millisecond when she was on that stage. And you need to do that too. If your goal is to go pro or to do well at whatever level you're at, you need to do that. So, So anyway, I was in college at the time, so I had another year of college left, and I there were only two shows happening before the Arnold Amateur for me to be able to qualify to do the Arnold Amateur. So my qualification, my previous one had lapsed because it'd been over a year. So I had the option of either doing LA or Legends, which was in Vegas. And the one in LA was happening the weekend before my semester started, and I knew I would already have to take time off school. Again, what a privilege. Take time off school to go do the Arnold Amateur, so I didn't want to miss even more school by going to the Legend show, which was about a month or a couple weeks before the Arnold Amateur. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do LA Championships. So I got my flight to do that. And there were 6 weeks in between that show and the Arnold Amateur. And luckily, 2 weeks after the LA show, there was a seminar in Reno, which is a couple hours away from me. And Bill Sibilia, who I knew was going to be the head judge, I think he was the head judge at the Arnold Amateur, I knew he was flying in from Pittsburgh to be at that seminar. So I drove my butt down to Reno, and I sat there all day at the Center Podium seminar, and then they were doing a mock show. So I brought my suit, brought my heels. I put on a layer of tan because we were on an actual stage. It was at the Sparks, Nevada Bally's Casino. So they were doing a mock show. So I knew I would be on stage under actual stage lights. They host real shows there. The Mother Lode that Center Podium puts on is there. So I wanted to make sure I had all the things that I would have when I were on an actual stage. And then I got up for the mock show, and I got feedback from Bill and Steve DeVore. And I knew that one of the things I have genetically is that my shoulder base is pretty wide. So I wanted some clarity on my posing and if they thought that I had what it took to go pro this year at the Arnold Amateur. So I got up there, and Steve was like, yeah, you do have wide shoulders, so you want to angle like this amount so that your upper body doesn't overpower your lower body, so you can hit that balance that we're looking for in the criteria. In bikini, they're looking at your overall poise, which includes your makeup, hair, posing, your presentation, and conditioning. They want you to have definition, but they don't want you to be extremely hard or grainy. And they want you to show symmetry and balance around your entire physique in every aspect. So that's balance and conditioning. You look the same from front to back, from top to bottom. Your leg looks just as conditioned as your arm. And they want your shape, your hourglass shape. An hourglass is literally symmetrical. So they want your physique to be symmetrical. They're looking for an hourglass shape. So I wanted clarity on that, and Steve gave that to me. He was super helpful. And then after we did the mock show, during the mock show, Bill was like, okay, do your walk, do your mandatories, whatever. I was super nervous, and it showed. I was stumbling. So yeah, I was getting super nervous. And then I asked Bill the hard questions. I was like, do you think I have what it takes to go pro at the Arnold Amateur? And he said that yes, I did, because I also was just like, I want to feel like I belong on whatever stage I go on. And he said, whatever national show you do, without me even saying that, he was like, whatever national show you do, you will look like you belong. So the Arnold Amateur is a tough one. I don't like telling anyone to do that one because I think everyone who wins first place at that show should go pro, but unfortunately only top 2 overall get that pro card. So I was like, okay, that's all I wanted to know. Would I look like I belong? And the Arnold Amateur fit in really well with my schedule because part of my strategy was location. So I'm a college student and I work a few different jobs. So I don't have the money to be flying to these shows that are mainly situated on the East Coast, aside from the Arnold Amateur, Olympia Amateur, and USA's, which are all either the middle of the States pretty much, or like towards the West Coast, because Vegas is home to, I think, USA's and Olympia Amateur. It kind of changes though. But yeah, so those would be my other options. And I knew that come Olympia Amateur, the girls are a little more competitive, so I definitely wouldn't have the glutes to stack up there. And I wanted to get competing done early in the year. So yeah, so I wasn't going to do the summer shows because they were all pretty far away. So that's why I chose the Arnold Amateur. And I also dove really deep into the history of how many people are showing up per class, what do the people look like at that show. And historically, the Arnold Amateur used to be gigantic, like 30 people per class. And in recent years, since COVID, and so about 2019, and then since inflation is so bad, then there have just been fewer people showing up the Arnold Amateur, and there are more opportunities overseas to get pro cards, whereas in the past, there were very few opportunities overseas to get Bikini Pro cards, so a lot of people would fly in from other countries to do the Arnold Amateur. So for all those reasons, the Arnold Amateur has been smaller. So I, already knowing that I had maybe just enough to go pro, I was like, I need to be very strategic with which national show I do, because I know way more people compete in the summer, because there's clusters of shows like Junior Nationals, Junior USAs. Junior USAs is before, and it's kind of far away from Junior Nationals, but yeah, Junior Nationals, USAs, Universe, stuff like that. Those are all pretty close together, so a lot of people run that entire circuit. So, yeah. But the other thing is that so that's pretty much the background. That's my background. So then I did the Arnold Amateur, went pro, love that, so excited. And so now we'll move on. You have my background. And then, I wanted to talk about the term warm-up show. I don't love calling shows warm-up shows, because I think it's kind of rude, honestly. Because you could show up and to call it a warm-up when it's other people's only show they can do, and this is only show they can do and the best they've ever looked. I think it's a little bit rude to call it a warm-up show, but I'm just kind of getting hung up on semantics there. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so that was my little personal history, and now let's get into some strategy building on top of that. So, with trying to go pro, I would go to seminars and I would ask the hard questions. So ask the questions that I asked Bill Sibillion and Steve DeVore, two judges. I don't know if Steve is on the Olympia panel, but Bill is on the Olympia panel. And so if there are seminars around you where good judges are coming to, you should definitely go to those seminars. If it's just kind of local judges who won't be judging on a national stage, then that's great. You can still go get feedback from them. But if you're gonna make a little trip or drive a couple hours to go to a seminar, I would try to seek out the ones that those judges who will actually be judging the national level are going to. So, and I would ask direct questions. Sometimes we're afraid to know the answer to the question, but I would rather know than not know and be disappointed or shocked or something. So yeah, go to seminars, ask the hard questions. Same goes for if you do a national show. Ask the judges direct questions. I just did USAs. Should I keep prepping and do North Americans now, or am I wasting my time? Like, ask things that will help you achieve your goal. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And then pros and cons of national shows. So like we talked about, for me, we talked about location. We talked about how many people are doing shows, how many pro cards they give out at shows. All of those things are considerations when you're trying to decide which national show or shows to do. So I know I said Arnold Amateur is smaller, so I thought my chances were a little better. Another reason I thought chances were a little better is because usually in the beginning of the year, people are a little bit softer because it's the first show of the year, and usually you get better, which sometimes can mean more pop in the muscles because you've been more well-fed in between. Like, in between shows is easier than getting lean for the first time of the season. So, so Arnold Amateur and Junior USAs, usually people are a tiny bit softer, not always, but usually. But there are fewer pro cards given out at those shows. However, the ratios are pretty similar. So even though only the top two overall of the Arnold Amateur go pro, there were also way fewer competitors at the Arnold Amateur. And one other thing I wanted to say, which goes into mindset, is when I competed in Ohio, like 2 or 4 people showed up as NS, so not scored on the scorecards because they didn't make it to stage. So the show moved really fast and they just didn't make it to stage. So had they shown up and looked better than me, maybe I wouldn't even have gotten that pro card. And not saying I didn't deserve it or anything, but that just all goes into your mindset. Like, the awareness that someone better than you can show up and being okay with that and accepting it. Like, I wasn't going to be crushed if I didn't go pro that day. Even though I thought I had what it took, I wasn't like, oh, I'm for sure this is in the bag. I think that's silly to assume that because everyone looked great and worked just as hard as you. I'm going to close these a little bit. So, yeah. The ratios of pro cards are pretty similar. So 2 are given out at the Arnold Amateur. And then at Junior USA's, the top 4 overall go pro, and there are 8 height classes. And then at Junior Nationals, first place in every height class goes pro. And then you have USA's, and USA's top 2 overall go pro. Nationals, top 2 overall go pro. North Americans only. Oh wait, I'm so sorry. So Arnold Amateur, top 2 overall, go pro. Junior USA's top 4 overall, go pro. Junior Nationals, first place in each height class goes pro. There are 8 height classes. And then we have USA's top 2 in each height class go pro. Universe, top 2 in each height class go pro. North Americans, first place in each height class goes pro. NPC Nationals, top 2 in each height class go pro. Olympia Amateur, top 3 overall go pro. So I'm sorry I messed that up the first time, but yeah. And there are a lot more competitors who compete at those shows. So the ratios of how many people go pro are pretty similar across the board because a lot of shows give out more pro cards, but more athletes show up. Arnold Amateur, less athletes show up, there are less pro cards given. So I wouldn't let the number of pro cards given out be something that informs whether you do that show or not, because it's going to be just as difficult at any show that you do. And then location is another one. So we talked about that in Should You Go to Nationals. We talked about like how expensive shows are. So location should factor into your decision making if finances are a big consideration for you, which for most people they are. And now let's get into presentation. So with your presentation, we're going to go in little chunks here. So we have stage presence. When you're doing a national show, you need to assume that you are neck and neck with the person against you in every aspect. So if your makeup doesn't look as good as the other person and everything else is the same, but her makeup is better, she wins. If you guys are neck and neck, but her suit color pops were on her, then she wins. If you're neck and neck and her hair looks more polished than yours, she wins. So you need to think like that when you're doing these national shows. So at all times, stage presence needs to be considered. And then your confidence and vibe on stage. So that was another thing that I was told when I got off stage in Ohio. One of the judges said, you didn't stop smiling the entire time. I've been hosting posing seminars for 20 years, and that's the first thing I say at all of the posing seminars. I say, the second you stop smiling, it takes me out of it. And something Bill said to me when I went to that seminar is that he said, never look down, because the second you look down, the judges are taken out of it, because it shows that you are lacking confidence. So don't step on stage and then look down to see the box. Just trust that you're going to make it to the box. You're standing in the center of the judging panel, and do not look down at any point. Bill said the only time that is acceptable is if you're doing your little transition pose where you're in model pose and then you look over your shoulder. You can look down then and then turn to the back. But other than that, you should not be looking down. So yeah, and confidence in your vibe, we've talked about this before, that is not something that's specifically written in the criteria, but if you read between the lines, being poised and having good presentation includes that. So you want to have an infectious vibe on stage, something that makes the judges not want to look away from you. So just beam the entire time, smile, look like you're having fun, don't look like you're thinking in your head the whole time of what your next move is. You don't want your transitions or your routine to look like you're trying to check the boxes in your head. You want to look like it's just effortless. And even if it doesn't go perfectly, just know that the judges don't know what your routine is. They don't know if you messed up. Like, to them, the only thing you could do to mess up is if you look like, oh fuck, I messed up. So just have confidence and look like you're excited and happy to be there. That is huge. And that, even when I have not had the best physique, I've still done well at shows because judges are like, we couldn't look away from you. You were so fun to watch. It looked like you were actually having a great time up there. So yeah, that's huge. And what also goes into that is making eye contact with the judges. Eye contact shows that you are confident. So when you're walking on that stage, scan the entire judging panel, look at them. When you're on the line, when you're on the diagonal, be looking at the judging panel, try to make eye contact with those judges, grab their attention. And yeah, just look like you're having fun, make eye contact. It shows confidence. And also, fighting on stage. That's what I have written there. So when I say fighting on stage, I mean, if you are in the second call out, it does not mean the show is over. So they are just, when they see your routines, then we see initial comparisons where they don't move you around. They spring you out in your initial groups before comparisons. Before your individual routines, which is how it goes at most shows. They're doing it quickly. They're just trying to see who is standing out to them. So if you get in that second call out, do not get down. Don't stop smiling. Don't let your demeanor change. Just keep acting excited because you are fighting for your spot. You could be on the ends of second call outs, and we just saw this with, who was it? Vanya. And they just kept moving her in because she kept getting better and better and grabbing their attention. Same thing happened with Phoebe, which we talked about in our Olympia recaps. She made it into 7th place after being in the second call out. So yeah, and when I did the Arnold Amateur, they brought my call out, and then they moved the person who was all the way on the end. They moved her in, and I just stayed there. I kept smiling because I was like, this is not over. I did not come to give up while I'm on stage. So I just kept smiling, and then they moved me to the center, to splitting center. So yeah, you are, for that entire time you're up there, look like this is not over. It is not over until finals are over. After prejudging, it's probably over. But it's not over until the show day has ended, until judging has ceased. So you need to fight for your spot on stage by smiling, looking like you're having a good time, and being confident. Okay, let's talk about hair and makeup. So with your hair, we touched on this a little bit. We want your hair to be polished. So, and polished means like you don't want to have your hair curled but like not brush it out, so it's just ringlets on stage. You want to run that brush through it. You don't want hair to be frizzy. You don't want to have some pieces straightened and some not. You don't want to have half of your hair curled but a bunch of the curls falling out. It needs to look cohesive and polished. And then curls versus straight hair. So curls and volume will kind of go hand in hand. So if you have a very petite physique and you are wearing like what you would think of as like Texas hair from a movie, like big curly hair, then that can swallow up your physique and make your shoulders look smaller, which is gonna cover them up and make you look like you are not symmetrical from top to bottom. You can have curls even if you have a petite physique, but you don't want so much volume in them, which could include just huge curls or a lot of extra extensions to give you volume. You just don't want the hair to wear you. You want to wear the hair. The focus should be on your physique, and it should not be drawn to anything else. Everything else should just look polished and highlight how great your physique looks. And then straight hair, if you're super, super muscular and grainy, then straight hair might highlight that a little bit too much. So softening up your look by having a curl in your hair might end up being better for you. So that's something that you'll want to discuss with like your coach, or if your posing coach helps you with presentation, your coach and your posing coach are all on the same page with that, then talk to your posing coach. But yeah, so that's what I have to say about hair. And let's talk about your makeup. So with your makeup, you want to just look like you, but amped up. Like, remember the era when everyone would just show their makeup artist a picture of Kim Kardashian and say, I want the natural look, and then show a picture of Kim Kardashian, and they're like, bitch, Kim Kardashian is wearing buckets of makeup. What are you talking about? But she looked natural still, just looked like beat and like she had perfect skin. That's more like what you want to look like on stage. A Kim Kardashian natural. So yeah, you don't want your makeup to be so natural that we can like see acne through it. Like for me, if I went too natural, you would just see my zits popping through. you want your skin, everything to just be perfected and amped up a little bit. So like a natural but glam. And you don't want your makeup to be so glam that it is now pulling focus, that it's so over the top that it's pulling focus. You want nothing to be distracting. So you don't want to put like rhinestones or like actual loose glitter on your eyes. You don't want to match your suit to your eyeshadow color or like your lip color. You want to be natural but amped up, because this is a physique competition. It's not full on, it's kind of a beauty pageant, but it's not a full on beauty pageant. So yeah, that's what you want with your makeup. And then suit selection. So a lot of people think that, especially pale people, so pale people are like, well, this color doesn't really look good with my skin. Well, your skin is going to be super tan. It's going to be like 10 shades darker than you are currently. Like my skin is not the color I'm able to go off of when I'm picking a suit color, because I'm too pale. I get way darker when I have the tan on. So the colors that look good on everyone else who has like similar hair color to you are probably going to look good on you. You don't want to say, oh, well, I look really good in, I don't know, light pink with my skin color, and then you get on stage and you're wearing a light pink and it looks like really washed out on you. So stuff like that. You don't want to match things to what looks good on you. Like a burgundy looks great on a lot of people, but people are pale, but on stage it ends up blending into the skin. So yeah, that's what you should do as far as skin color. Don't go off of your actual skin color. And then when you are picking a suit, understand the base color of your tan. So does the tan that you get have a red undertone? If so, you probably don't want to do like a deep red or an orange or something, because it's not going to pop off your skin. You want the suit to celebrate your physique. So we talked about Woo Bee and how I thought that her silvery blue color was too light for her tan. And it looked just a little washed out. So yeah, I wouldn't do a suit color like that. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, so, and you wouldn't want to do like a deep burgundy for most people, because it's gonna be blending in with the tan. So you can do a bright blue like Tricot Aquamarine from Toxic Angels, which we have seen Jordan Brennan rock a million times. Because that doesn't have that silvery white base to it. See, she's wearing it right here. It pops off of the tan. So yeah, just if you're seeing a pro who's doing really well wearing it, you're probably safe to wear that color, is, I guess, kind of a good way to go off of it. And then suit cut. Let's talk about suit cut. So the bottom cut, a lot of people think that the less amount of fabric, the better. So they think, oh, a micro cut is going to make my glutes look rounder and bigger, and my glutes are underdeveloped. I don't have enough muscle, so I need them to look more developed, so I need them to look bigger, so I'll wear a smaller suit cut. Not the case. So we've talked about how certain cuts, like micro cuts, can just expose shallowness on the top of your glutes. So Ashley Kaltwasser is someone... This is like a T-back, so I would just say this isn't flattering in general, but just to give you an idea, when you wear a really tiny cut suit and you don't have the glute development to match, then it starts to expose where the glute connects to the upper back and then begins to look shallow on top of your glutes. So Ashley K's glutes, everyone knows they're super round, but here they're not reading as round, they're reading as more square. So, and you're more likely to actually accidentally pull it up too high in the back to where it really exposes that. And I think a good example of that is this year we saw Eduarda Becerra, who placed third, still placed third, but we see that her upper glutes, they need a little more development in general, but the fact that her bottoms were up so high, I know she's not posed here, but her hair covers it a little bit. They're pulled up so high that it's no longer giving roundness. You want to see the shape of the glute be rounded and not more rectangular or triangular like we're seeing here, where it is showing that amount of her glute. So yeah, there's that. And then we have, and then as far as tops, so molded versus not molded, it depends on the company. So I would say if you have a molded top and you're also stuffing it and you have implants, sometimes it can be overpowering and make you look a little bit top heavy, which distracts from your shape and can kind of swallow you up. But if you have implants and you wear a not molded top, it might give you a little bit better of balance. So yeah. And then so that's pretty much all I have to say about suits. Just don't go off of your actual skin tone, and be careful with the cuts that you choose. So yeah, there's that. And then, with makeup, let's go back. Sorry, I wanted to mention that Ashlyn Little talked about in her podcast that she was doing well as a pro, but she was always doing her own makeup. And then as soon as she started having they were always like, something's missing, I don't know what it is. And then as soon as she paid someone to do her makeup, she started doing super well. So I just want to show you the difference in what it looks like to have your makeup done versus not have your makeup done, and the huge difference that can make. So we see her makeup now. She looks very vibrant and bright versus when she would do her own makeup. It's just, if these two people were against each other at a national show, this person is winning, not this person. So yeah, I was really glad she said that, because I think it speaks to how overall polish and presentation makes such a huge difference. Okay, so posing. We kind of talked about this already. So with your posing, making a timestamp, never look down. We talked about that. Smile from the second they see you. We talked about that, including when you're on the diagonals, waiting to be called out. So always smile. And when you're doing your individual routine, you don't want to rush through your routine, but you don't want to take a super long time in your routine. So hold your mandatory pose, your front pose, long enough that you can look at every single one of the judges, and then do your transition. Do it long enough that they're able to snap a picture of you. If you move through it really fast, you'll see that you're always in motion during your photos. And we don't get a solid picture of you in each position you were holding on stage. So hold it long enough that a photo could be snapped, but not so long that you're just standing there, and not so short that they couldn't capture a photo if they tried. And then every move you make on stage should look good as a photo. So a way that you can tell if you're a good poser is if you scroll through all your photos and each of them could stand alone. Even if it's not like a photo you would post, it should still be displaying balance from top to bottom and giving an hourglass shape. You don't want to be caught in any way where your legs are super far apart, or you're completely square to the camera in a way that looks like you're in motion, like you didn't know there was a camera around or something. Every photo you have should be able to stand alone and look good and display balance and shape. And look at your previous photos to see, did I do a good job or no? And then you need a posing coach. So if you don't have a posing coach, even posing coaches use posing coaches. So, have a posing coach so they can help see what's best on you, because when we're in prep, we see ourselves all the time, and it's hard to know what we should change and what we should change or not. So even though my posing has always been pretty good, there's definitely always room for improvement. And even when I went pro, I was super nervous on stage. The show was super rushed, and that shouldn't have affected me if I were acting professional enough, but it did affect me because I had room to grow in my posing conditioning, which I knew, or in my, whatever. But I knew I had to work on my posing conditioning, meaning how long I'm able to hold a pose, but I was just so tired during my prep that I was like, okay, well, if this is what loses me the show, then I guess it's what loses me the show. I deserved it. Which isn't, necessarily the mindset. You shouldn't really put yourself in a situation where you are not giving every part of the prep your all. But, I mean, let's be real. Sometimes that happens. And it worked out for me, thank God. But, yeah. So, have a posing coach, have them go through with you holding those poses. And something I like to do with my posing clients is I will have them hold a pose and I will screen record it. And we hold it for however many seconds. And then we watch the video back. And we see at what point they started losing, usually it's core control, at what point they started losing core control. And for me, when I start to lose core control, I start to overcompensate by hunching forward a little bit to keep my abs flatter. But then I'm hunched forward, so it doesn't look good. So I look for things like that. Whatever somebody's sign is of no longer being able to sustain that pose. And then we see at what timestamp they started doing that. And then we start from there. We work to hold that pose for that many seconds, say it's 20 seconds. And then we incrementally work up in like 5 more seconds. And then once they're able to hold that pose for 5 seconds longer before they start showing one of their tells, then we add 5 more seconds. So yeah, be aware of your posing conditioning. And so it's something you really need to practice on. So that's something I'm practicing on now, that I will be competing against pros who will have core conditioning, like who will have posing conditioning. So yeah, that's important. And then what criteria the judges go on. So we talked about that. Shape, they've really emphasized that shape is huge, the right conditioning level. We went over this earlier. And when you're doing your routine, a lot of amateurs will think, oh, well, I see pros do like the walk to the back and stuff. I see them do this extra stuff with their hair. I see them do that look over the shoulder where they then like flip their hair and then look again and like flip it back and freeze the back. That's great and all, but the longer you're on stage, and I get it. Like you think, oh, I paid a bunch of money, I deserve to have my time on stage. Yeah, true. Go for it. But do you want to give them extra time to see flaws when your goal is to get a pro card? No. So, like, it's kind of worth the trade-off for me. I'm not going to spend a bunch of extra time just because I paid to have this time, when the longer you're on stage, that's the longer the judges have to start seeing your flaws. Sandy says it all the time. A physique can walk out on stage and they're like, oh, this person looks great. And then they start doing weird stuff with their posing or just standing up there way too long. And then judges have a second to be like, oh, I thought they looked great, but now I see that she's having a little more striation in her shoulder than I noticed in the beginning. Or like she's dropping her glutes when she turns to the back. So yeah, just short and sweet, hit your mandatories, like exit the stage well, keeping those glutes high, give them as little flaws to pick up on as possible, because everyone has flaws. It's just about who is able to hide them best. And then another thing, which I think I made a video about it, is making sure that you are working on that less is more principle. So when I say less is more, I mean less swinging of your hips, because the more you swing your hips, the more your glute is going to fold, which is going to look like you're not conditioned, even if you are conditioned, which you probably are. So yeah, make sure that you are just, doing less is, yeah, this is supposed to awful, but you see what I mean here. So I had way more exaggerated movement when I was doing my turn to the back, especially. So way intense seeing glute folding, and then I lessened it here. And even though I was a little bit leaner, we aren't seeing all that glute folding that we were seeing at this qualifying show that I did. So yeah, less is more. And then anything else? Yeah, it versus glute folding. So yeah, I guess I thought this video would be longer. So lucky for you guys, it's not. Here are my clothes. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Or if you want me to elaborate on anything or make more videos on like a specific thing we talked about, then let me know. And thanks so much for watching. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.